Hello, YouTube. My audience, if you're seeing me on YouTube, my audience is really on TikTok. So that's why you'll only see the side of my face because I'm talking to TikTok. Hello. While we're waiting for people to turn up, I'd love to know where you're from. What part of the world are you in? I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. And it looks like it could be sunny today, but it was raining earlier. Vancouver is a rainforest. I don't know why people complain about the rain. It's a rainforest. It rains a lot. But we had a couple summers ago or last summer, massive droughts. Trees were dying. It was just, and the roots are all uplifting and trees are falling over. So we can get good weather too, but we do get a lot of rain. Okay, so while we're waiting, I'd like to know where you're from. Fort McMurray, Alberta. Is that mining? Is that up north? Let me look that up. Fort McMurray. I've certainly heard of it. I just don't know anything about it. Fort McMurray. Just looking it up. McMurray. Petroleum. Okay, yeah. Okay. Czech Republic, living in Switzerland. You've been on here before, haven't you? Welcome back. Pennsylvania, Texarkana. Have you been here before? Because I've said that name before, Texarkana. Welcome, Victoria. Whittier, California. So Maria, never heard of that before. Whittier. Regular listener too. Excellent. Welcome back. I appreciate that. Also, people who come back, my regulars, they also answer a lot of questions for me. So it helps me out a great deal. Anyway, Montreal, Nebraska, Middle Tennessee. Do you know what I've noticed Americans do is they tell you what region, like south or north or east or west of a state. We don't tend to do that in Canada that I know of. We don't say it's southern, the southern province. But yeah, it's very common with Americans who tell us what area that you're from. It's interesting. Nebraska, Montreal, Louisiana, Florida. Is that Jacksonville, Florida? Is that short for that, or is there a Jax, Florida? I'm gonna have to look that up now. Oh, it's Jacksonville. I had that right. Imagine that. Jacksonville. Oh, cute. I'm from Vancouver. What was it? Our airport it's just fantastic that when your city starts with the letter V and you've got an airport, it's called Vancouver International Airport. So it's VIA, VIA. Isn't that clever? Well, I thought it was clever. Anyway, VIA. Okay, Michigan. Miami, Florida. Geez, I really envy you that weather. I lived in Australia for 20 years and I love the weather. People used to say, don't you miss the seasons? Nope, not once, not ever. Not once, not in 20 years did I ever miss a season. I love, it wasn't summer all year long, but it was nice. Like my kids, when we first moved back to Canada, the only reason we moved back was because my mom got ill. When we moved back and they saw frost in the grass, they went out to play in it. They thought that was snow. They'd never seen frost before. California, Tucson, Arizona. Okay. I think I'll get going now. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on my website, it's bratbusters.com. You can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that behavior board also. That's what makes it work. Hi, Norway. I'm half Norwegian. So I don't remember that emoji. Have you been here before? Because I've had lots of people from Norway, but it might have been someone different. Okay, my 2-year-old is turning 3 in July. Any advice for hitting into the 3-year-old stage? That is when, now some kids are just really easy. I had 2 kids, one had tantrums, but he was still pretty easy. And my daughter never had a tantrum. They're all completely different. But if you haven't been exercising you're here all the time. Oh, okay, welcome back. What's your name, by the way? You know, you can change that and put your name in there. I'm always interested. And also I was asking the other day about the user and then numbers after that. It's just people just haven't gone in there and put their name in. I just love it when I can put a name to that. To people. Anyway, I mean, you do what you want to do. I'm just saying it'd be nice to know your name. Okay, so the 3-year-old is when they often find their power. So if you hadn't been exercising any leadership at all, letting your toddler get away with everything, then by the time they hit 3, this is when they often go, they can reason. This is when they often go, huh, I got a lot of power here. I'm going to start using it. So oftentimes people will say, well, they were really easy when they were under 3, and then they hit 3, and then they just became terrors. That's why they actually stop and think, oh, I've got a lot of power here. I'm going to start exercising it. They don't think I'm going to start exercising it, but yeah, that's when they find their power. They can start to reason. So, do you have any preschool or specific content? I mostly can find toddler stuff on your page. Yeah. What I do is I have a course that's just starting in like 12 days from now. And I'm only got 10 people in, but I've got 5 people who have not signed up yet. And your invoice expires tomorrow. So if you don't pay by tomorrow, I go to new people. I've been sending out the invoices very dribs and drabs. And I ask that if you do want to be in on that course, it's only $300 for 5 weeks, and there'll be group coaching involved. I'm building it. It's brand new. It's going to be parent driven. So the reason why I'm only allowing 10 people in is because I need their input. Tell me what to take out, what to leave in, what they want. Maybe I didn't put something in they wanted. So I'm just building it, and I'm getting their help. Anyway, if you're interested in that, let me know. Because yeah, 5 people haven't paid. The first 5 I sent it out to paid right away, and now these other 5 haven't. I think they got another day to go, but yeah, that invoice will expire. But I'm really, really excited about that. So that's what I've got coming up. That will be available to the public probably 2 weeks after April 30th. It starts on April 30th, and about 2 weeks after that, I expect to have it out there running for everybody else. And it's a 5-week program. You'll be fed a different lesson each week, and then I'll be coaching you as a group on Zoom every Saturday. So you get the first lesson on Sunday. By Saturday, I'm coaching you all as a group. So excited about it. Okay, so that will be my preschool. It's 3 to 12-year-olds. And the reason why that was the most painful thing. I talk about the fact I've been working on this for years off and on. I can never figure out what age group to do. But you know what I figured? 3 to 12 is a lot of crossover. And I can mix it all up. I can manage 3 to 12-year-olds. I didn't want to do 3 to 8-year-olds and then 9 and 12s, which are tweens, and then 13 and 18, which is teens. It just didn't feel right. So 3 to 12. And I could figure that out. I could put enough content in there for all those different ages. They are very similar. The most different ages with kids is toddlers and teens. That's when I realized that. And I thought it's very similar in between those 2 years, those 2 age groups. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. It's coming up really soon. And then I'll be throwing it out there. It's not on my website or anything right now. I've just been sort of keeping it to myself. So just anyway, okay. Oh, good question. This comes up a lot. When applying the consequences from behavior board, do they have to be done immediately? Wait a minute, why is this loose? Do they have to be done immediately after the bad behavior? So they break the rule. Do you have to do the consequence right away? No, you can say when we get, because you might be out in the middle of the mall. You can't have them cleaning a window in the middle of the mall, right? So you say, okay, that was bad. So when we get home, you're going to be doing the consequence. Or you might be home and say, after dinner, you're going to be doing the chore that you were supposed to do, the consequence. So, but yeah, you identify it right away and you discuss when it's going to happen. But tell them when it's going to happen. Say it's going to start tonight after dinner. As soon as we've got cleaned up, then you're going to do it. So let them know. Let them know it's happening. Oh, and you said I'm a nanny. I don't give nanny advice. You know I don't, but a lot of my clients are teachers and principals and child psychologists, and they use this with clients and students. But I don't give advice in those realms because I don't know anything about it. I wouldn't have a clue how to be a child psychologist or a teacher or a principal, but I understand parenting. So some of it's crossover, but a lot of it isn't. That's why we all have a place in the world, right? We all have a place and a need. Parent, like we're all different. So, but yeah. Leadership mindset. Yeah, because it's about respect. You give it to get it. The reason is I understand teenagers. They're my favorite age. I want to get you there and have you sail through it like I did. Yeah, the odd hiccup, but I had nothing big at all, nothing to write home about. But yeah, it's all about giving respect to get it. Once you get good at it when they're younger, by the time they're teenagers, you'll just sail through. Should a parent believe everything a 2 and 3-year-old says? Absolutely not. They're going to come up with stuff. Make believe is a big part of their world because you're reading them stories all the time. They can't always differentiate between the two. So, but yeah, no, you don't. But there are signs. There are things that you want to look out for. What I'm wondering is, if has something happened that they've said something and you're wondering if I could potentially help. I don't discuss that kind of stuff on here. That's more serious stuff. So if you're worried that something's happened and they've said something awful's happened, but you're not sure whether or not to believe them, I could help you through that with coaching if you want to work with me on that. But yeah, I do this kind of stuff in coaching. But yeah, it's more specialized stuff. I don't discuss that on TikTok. How do you stop talking back, 7-year-old? You never fix kids. You just don't. You fix yourself. Set yourself up as a leader, and they don't talk back. They don't. I didn't get sass. You just don't. It doesn't happen. You don't get sass back because I teach leadership, and leaders don't get sass. Leaders get respect, because you're giving it. Leaders give respect to get it. So yeah, you're not fixing your kids at all. You're fixing yourself. So keep watching. Learn my leadership skills. You can start with my behavior board. It's free on my website, bratbusters.com. If you want to fast track this all and want my help, you have to hire me for that. My teen always feels like he has to explain himself. I sometimes take this as him talking back. How can I approach this? Explain himself about what? I don't know what you mean by that. My teen feels like he has to explain himself. So in other words, he does something wrong and then he has to explain it. Is that what you mean? I don't quite know what you mean there. Um, for months and nothing is changing with try behavior board. With the behavior board. Well, you're missing something. That's where coaching comes in. It's a teaching tool. Some parents are getting great results doing it all by themselves, but coaching teaches you how to do it. Now, I give you the behavior board for free, but if you want my personal help on how to make it work personally, like you're missing something you're either doing something you shouldn't be doing or you're not doing something you should be doing. I don't know what that is. I'd have to assess the situation. So that's why you're just missing something. But yeah, that's coaching. That's that personal one-on-one stuff if you want my help with that. Okay. What to say to a 4 and a 6-year-old when they tell you they will not listen to you and do what you ask? Remember, we're not fixing kids. They're saying that for a reason. Do you know what they're saying? Can you please be a leader? You're not one now, but we want a leader. That's why they're actually verbalizing that. Kids need, crave, and want a leader. And they're basically asking you for it. So set yourself up as a leader, and that just doesn't happen. They don't talk like that if you're a leader. It's impossible. When you're a good leader, a calm leader, they look up to you and they want to please you. They do not talk like that. They just don't. So you're fixing yourself, not your children. Always think of it that way. My kids, their behavior is just a reflection of my parenting, which I'm going to work on. You can only change yourself anyway. So don't get obsessed with your kids. Your kids' behavior is just a tell on your parenting. It's telling you how you are parenting and where you need to fix it. Anyway, if you want my personal help, you have to hire me for that, to figure that out, what's going on. But just try my behavior board, see if it works on your own. Will coaching help if the child goes between mom and dad's house? Absolutely. I do that a lot. Absolutely. They only need one really good leader. And once they're 3 to 4 years old, they take your good leadership umbrella everywhere they go. They become a reflection of the good leader, not the other one. It's just the way they are. They need, crave, and want leadership. And when they've got a good leader, they become a reflection of that leader, no matter where they are, who they're with. Doesn't matter. I call it the leadership umbrella. They carry your leadership umbrella everywhere. I deal with tons of my clients are divorced and have a couple different homes and step parents and step kids and all sorts of different stuff going on. But yeah, absolutely. They only need one leader. Okay. You're talking about my child hates the shopping cart, but will run away from me in the store. I don't care if they hate the shopping cart. Does she hate the car seat too? Do you let her run around in the car? It's a safety issue. There's no way that my kids would not get in that shopping cart. My son, and he was the one who was challenging, and even him, he wasn't really challenging. But if either of my kids were ever going to fight that, it would have been my son. My daughter never fought anything. Easiest kid in the world. I can't take credit for that. She was born that way. But yeah, that's just a rule. We're going shopping. You're getting in that cart. Remember, I had the goodie bag, right? They only got that little goodie bag when they sat in that cart. But yeah, my son, I remember once in particular, he did not want to get in that shopping cart. I just waited till he bent, till he took a breath. They don't just stiffen, they go like that. There's no way would he bend. So I'm just waiting. I got my hand on his belly, waiting. Soon as he took a breath, bang, he was right in there, tied in there. And that was it. It's happening. It's happening. So yeah, don't let them run the roost. Like I said, what about car seats? If they don't like that, it's just a safety issue. I get frustrated, but I know she's just being free and silly. That's not necessary. If you want that, that's fine, but there's no way I would want a kid running around the supermarket. And, one of the moms asked me on here, and she said, how do I get them to put back what they grabbed off a shelf? And I'm like, why are they grabbing things off a shelf? How did they get access to that? There's no way my kids would have been able to touch a shelf. There's just no way. I would hold their hands, use one hand to grab. And then they just learned you just don't grab for stuff. So why on earth are they grabbing stuff? That's why they're unruly when you're shopping. They've either had freedom or they've had the ability to grab everything. Just don't give them that option. Think of it this way, like a car seat. Would you give them the ability to open the car door and unbuckle themselves? They're buckled in, they're safetied in for a reason. It's the same with shopping. Just take charge of certain things. I took charge of certain things. When we were at the park, it was all them. I didn't have an opinion. Let them do whatever they want to do at the park. In their world, when it's not a safety issue, you just go with it. Let them have fun. Let them be in charge. Let them be in charge of the fun. That's why it's so easy when you're in charge of the serious stuff, because they've already had some freedom. They understand you're respecting them by letting them totally take charge of all the fun. That's what I did. My kid, the fun was all on their terms, all in their world. But when it came to safety or anything like that, like basic manners, that was me, my world. So you see, give and take. They understand this stuff. When they feel respected, they're so respectful. They just are. You lead and they will follow. It's just the way it is. Yeah, kids running around a store unattended are very disruptive for other shoppers. But yeah, that's just because the parents don't know what to do. They're just floundering. So yeah, I just feel bad for the parent. Whenever I see kids running around a store and everyone hates them because they're being a pain in the butt, I feel bad for the parents because they just don't know what to do, right? And all those parents, I would hate to have kids that other people would hate. That would drive me nuts. I got compliments all the time. Oh, your kids are so good. How come they're so polite? I love that. I would have been humiliated if people looked at my kids and rolled their eyes. I would have been humiliated because I would have been embarrassed. That would have been a reflection on my parenting. I would have, because I'm very proud of parenting. To me, that was really important because I knew what to do. I had tons of experience with kids before I had my own. But if I thought people were rolling their eyes at my kids, I would have just instantly looked in a mirror. What am I doing wrong? It's not my kid's fault. It's my fault. So yeah, exactly. I'd be mortified if my kids were just disrupting someone else. Yeah. But the only reason they are is the parents don't know what to do. That's why they're here. They're looking for answers. You don't want your kids. You don't want people rolling their eyes at your kids and hating them. Nobody wants that. But it's not necessary. It doesn't have to happen. You can learn how to be a leader, and people will be coming up to you all the time saying, "Oh my God, your kids are so good. I wish all the kids in the supermarket were like yours." And I'm like, "Well, thank you." I was proud of that. Yeah, you're just out of control here. I want to help you, but it's just you're letting her lead the way. Because you said not unattended, laugh out loud, was always close. She will bend her arms so hard and scream. She's totally in charge. Totally. You just got some work to do. Keep watching me, or you can hire me to help you with this stuff. But yeah, she's just exercising her own power because you don't have it. That's all it is. She's in charge. Okay. Thoughts on repeating kindergarten at 5 years old. He's not interested in learning this year. That is a hot topic. It's sort of like asking me about politics, or, it's a hot topic. Like, I think you do what feels right for you. It generally doesn't damage children if they repeat kindergarten. If they're going to repeat anything, it should be kindergarten. You don't want them repeating grade 7. I mean, if they need to, yes, but you would rather them repeat kindergarten. So that's totally up to you. Do you think they're going to be bored if they do repeat? Are they going to get bored because they might catch up? I don't know. Both my kids were always the youngest because they were born late in the year, so they were always really young. I didn't hold them back at all because I knew they were ready. But if they weren't, I would have held them back. So you do what feels right to you. I can't answer that. Definitely something mom is doing wrong. Well, it's just because the mom doesn't know what else to do. Parents never get a baby and they look in the hospital and they go, I'm going to mess you up. Like, they just don't. Everyone's doing the best that they can. They want their kids to be wonderful. They want everyone to be happy with their kids. They want to be proud of them. And if it's not working out, it's just because the parents don't know what else to do. So that's why I'm here. I'm teaching you what else to do. So, and all my clients, they all come to me wanting to learn what else to do. So I got 6-year-old boys, they take over in store and I can't handle it. Okay, you got to work on this. You got to work on your leadership skills, because if they take over in the store, it means they don't respect you. That's all it is. That's a complete sign of disrespect for you. So work on your leadership skills and they will respect you. That's all this is. We're never fixing kids. We're fixing you. We're setting you up as a leader so that your children will respect you. Like, when we went out, I was well behaved. If I ever got this look from my mother, oh, I couldn't handle it. Even now, like, I just couldn't handle my mom's disapproval because I respected her. And I had that same thing over my kids. If I ever looked at them like that, they were like, oops, instantly. Respect. That's not fear. I was not afraid of my mom. I told her everything. She was my best friend. And my kids told me everything. We were really close. So it's not about fear. It's about respect. They want to please you. They don't want your disappointment. So work on your leadership skills. That's where all the power is. I mentored so many kids and worked with hundreds of kids, troubled teens and everything. You think I could change their behavior or would even try? Why would I do that? That doesn't make any sense at all to me. All I did was work on my leadership skills. And it changed a little bit with each kid too. That's where coaching comes in. They're all different. So it changed with each kid too. But I used a lot of humor, but a lot of giving respect to get it, right? But it was all about me. It had nothing to do with them. I can't control other people's kids when I see them 1 hour a week, but I can get respect. So that's all this is. And then their behavior is beautiful with you. Why would they disrespect someone that they respect? They just don't do that. Okay. Someone said, don't be ashamed. It's something that can be worked on for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Why on earth are parents ashamed of the parenting job they're doing? You know why? Because it's the hardest job in the world with the least amount of training in it. Everyone expects you to be an expert, especially you. Does that make any sense? That's ludicrous. Why on earth do you think you should know all this if you've never taken courses or studied parenting? Or why on earth are you so hard on yourselves? It doesn't make any sense at all. I get this all the time in coaching. Oh, I know you probably think I'm a bad mother. When would I ever give that illusion that I'm going to judge you? That's ridiculous. The hardest job in the world with the least amount of training, and everyone expects you to be an expert, especially you. That's ludicrous. Just start learning. Anyone can learn this. My behavior board is my teaching tool. I never used one. It's just a tool I use to teach parents how to give respect to get it, because you're on that behavior board too. That's what makes it work. You start to get it. If you really are struggling or want to fast track all this, hire me. I can help you do it. The behavior board's a small part of what I do. We set it up and then we just go into how you make it work. And all this, tons of other stuff goes into that. But anyway. And if you're going to judge other parents for what they're doing, is that helping them? Do you know what I do whenever I see someone doing a horrendous job with their kids out in public? I look for an opportunity to go up to them, and I say the same thing pretty much every single time. Been there, stay strong. And then, oh, thank you, thank you. I probably haven't been there, but I want them to feel like they're not alone. So support them. They're doing the best they can. Okay. I'm learning to co-parent as I'm also parenting my parent at 30 years. Got classes for that. Do you know a lot of what I do? And I'm not a therapist. I have no training. This is all stuff I've learned. Kids taught me all this stuff. And I've never read a book on kids or anything. It's just kid taught. Anyway, and I always say I'm not a therapist. Almost all my clients say, yes, you are. Because there's a lot of what they're going through. When I first started this business, I didn't think of that. I don't know why. I just didn't think of that. I was so focused on the kids. Then I realized I'm not working with kids here. What I'm doing is I'm mothering all these parents. And all their baggage, all their pain, all their guilt, that's probably 90% of my coaching is working on that. It's not about the kids. Kids are easy. It's the parents is working through all their own baggage and their own pain and their own guilt and all this stuff. And that's my job. That's what coaching is. So yeah, I'm not a therapist, but they all tell me, yes, you are. But I'm not. You know what I'm saying? But I have to work on them. Actually, when I first started doing this, I'm 62 now, so I'm pretty much older than all my clients now. Unless it's troubled teens, then sometimes they'll be my age or older. But I'm old enough now that it's just different. I'm an old lady now, so it's okay. But I first started this. I think was I 40 something? 40? I would have been 45 something. A lot of my clients, because I specialized in troubled teens, so a lot of my clients were older than me. It was harder to mother them because I have to get maternal to do good at what I do. And it was harder for them to accept me in that role. Not me, but it was harder for them. So now that I'm old, yeah, it's easy. Okay. Okay, this one's something I was going to talk about. Just a sec here. Focus. Okay. We struggle when sports activities throw our routine off. Tips? Yes, don't overschedule. Do you know the reason why children have such a hard time focusing now is we're so busy keeping them busy, they don't even have time to think and get in their own head, which is an important fundamental tool in life, is to be able to deal with boredom and fill it and use your head to fill up that time with. Boy, that's above my pay grade here. I can't explain it because I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist. What I mean by this is if you don't allow children to learn how to have some downtime and be bored, they're missing out on a very important life lesson, is how to just get into your own head, how to entertain yourself, how to find yourself, basically. I could go on for hours about this, but I know a lot of my clients, not as much anymore. It's not as trendy. For years and years, kids were scheduled like crazy. Now we realize we were doing them more harm than good by overscheduling them. I think it's really good that they have activities, but they're all different too. I have two kids. One, my son didn't like joining anything, but I always made him join one thing. That was my rule, join one thing. Till he was a teenager, then he didn't have to join anything. My daughter, on the other hand, I had to hold her back. She's still like this. She's 28. My son's 33. And she loves to join everything. She has to have every minute of every day accounted for. But she even accounts for her downtime. So she's very, just loves joining everything. So they're all different. You got to parent them a little bit differently. But yeah, don't overschedule. Allow them to have some downtime, some bored time where they have to get into their own head. And that's an important learning skill. They find out who they are that way. Otherwise, they're just that activity. Who are they? Now you're answering someone else. Now you know how snoopy I am. I feel like I have to go back and find out what you guys are talking about. But then I get dizzy when I'm scrolling backwards. So how do you guys watch each other so well? I don't know what's going on here half the time. Okay. What do you do when you don't agree on partner on parenting? Such a good question. Comes up a lot in coaching. Although about 50% of the time it comes up because one parent wanted to hire me. I can always tell which parent wanted to hire me. They're the ones sitting like this. I do it all through Zoom. And the other one's back like this. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is going to be fun. So what I do is I pick a leader. If they're not on the same page, I pick a leader. Often it's the one who's sitting back like that. I don't want to go into how I do it, but I pick, it's often the one they don't expect. I say, I'm going to pick a leader and the other one has to defer to that leader. Give it 3 weeks. If it's not working, then we'll go your way, which we never do. But anyway, yeah, pick a leader and give it 3 weeks of one parenting method. And if it's not working, you can switch, let the other one take over. So yeah, I'm very confident in what I teach. So not yet has that ever switched over that I know of anyway. The other one usually gets on board usually by week 3, the other one's on board. They go, yeah, I get it. I get it. Oh, and I'll tell you also, if you have one stronger parent than the other with all this stuff, like obviously I was, because I love all this and I teach it. So I was definitely the leader. I was the disciplinarian. I was the one the kids came to with everything too. That's what happens. If you're the leader, they come to you and they tell you everything too. And the other parent's great too. It's just, it's a different relationship. Anyway, they only need one really strong leader. So what we did was when my kids were little, because they don't, when they get a bit older, 3 and 4 years old, they take that leader's umbrella everywhere they go and they treat everyone with respect. It's just the way they are because they become who they are around the leader. They form that way and they become that way wherever they go. So, but when they're little, they're still learning. And my kids used to push their dad around a bit because he was push aroundable. And so he said to me one day, he says, how do I, like when they were little and I wasn't around, if I was around, they wouldn't have done that. So anyway, I said, here's what you do. Cause he said, what do I do? Cause discipline just wasn't his thing. And I didn't want him messing up the kids. I knew what I was doing. So I wanted to do it. So I said, just say to them, if they start to push you around when you're out alone with them, just say to them, do you want me to tell mom? Instantly, no. So you only need one really good leader. He was a great dad. They loved him dearly. It's not about that. It's about who's the better at this, who's the better leader. You only need one good leader and the other one defers to that leader. Should I hire to help deal with whining? If you want to, one session might do it. Although if they're over the age of 3, there's more going on. So it might be 3 sessions. But if they're just a toddler and you want my help with stuff like that, it might just be one session. But yeah, if they're over 3 and they're still whining, there's more going on. You can, some people want to take me out for a test drive. They hire me for one session, then I can send them a separate invoice to upgrade them to the packages if they want. That's not most people these days actually, but a lot of people still do that. They say, I'm just taking you out for a test drive. Fine by me, fine by me. You do whatever you want. Help with whining. Yeah, whining. If they're whining, it means it's over the age of 3. If they're still whining, it means it worked. So you got to work on your leadership skills. Under the age of 3, they're toddlers. They're going to try stuff. Just make sure it doesn't work. Mostly ignoring, but you got to be on the ball with this stuff because they're not going to connect it if you're always ignoring and then you don't come in quickly. If as soon as they whine, say, go like that and then look away. As soon as they talk normally, you got to be right on it. You got to reward the good and ignore the bad, but you got to be quick. Anyway, it's a little bit of a process. 4 years old. Yeah, there's more going on. So if they're still whining, it means it works. It means they're in charge. Whining, let me think. Could mean you're not meeting their needs. Also, lots of different. I don't want to put my coaching hat on because then I talk too much and I can't see the questions because then I go, and another thing it could be. But yeah, if you want my help with that, it's on my website, bratbusters.com. Okay. Thoughts on gentle discipline? I don't know what you mean by that. What's gentle discipline? I don't know what you mean. I teach leadership and I don't, oh, I know. You're asking about something that I don't teach. I don't critique other people's stuff. Like what I mean is if you ask me about a specific thing like timeout, I will hate timeout, can't stand it. I'll talk about that, but a whole method, I don't critique other people's packages or learning stuff and all. You know what I'm saying? The odd thing out there that I really hate that's really common. There's 3 of them. One of them is timeout. Can't stand it. But it's my least of the least favorites. Does that make any sense? Can private sessions help with 6 kids of different ages and falling? Oh, absolutely. I deal with a lot of big families. And it's not as effective. It takes a bit longer because everything's a bit more wishy-washy because you got a lot of stuff going on. I can't have you target each kid individually. We set up systems. We get systems in place that suit most of the kids, but there's almost always one kid that's the real target, but we can't let them know that. But yeah, I deal with big families. It's just about systems, getting organized. But it's a process. Makes sense, right? Example timeout. Example timeout. Yeah, I hate timeout. Do you want me to tell you why I hate timeout? I'll just make it really quick. I see it as weak. I see it as mean and disrespectful. It's like I don't know how to parent. I don't know what to do with you. You go way over there in that corner. Yuck, I don't even want to see. You're not even worth talking to. You think about what you did. Then after that, to rub salt in the wound, I'm going to discuss the whole scene all over again once I go back to you. I just hate it. I think it's horrible. Never done it, never will. Oops, sorry, flipping through here. Sometimes I do skip questions because of the feed. It skips, and I get dizzy when I scroll backwards because I'm old. I got vertigo issues. So if I skip something, it's never on purpose unless it's a repeat of someone else's question. Oh, okay. My 3-year-old son just started hitting because he got a new baby. That's so common. I've got a lot of clients right now in that same boat. Anyway, can you imagine? Let's say you're married. Let's say you're a woman. You're married to this guy, and he decides to bring in a girlfriend. That girlfriend's loud, getting the most attention. He has less attention for you. He may even seem annoyed by you at times because you're asking for too much attention. Put yourself in your 3-year-old's shoes and imagine what they're going through. Think about it. When they're in the hospital, oh, my new baby sister, I love her. A week later at home, they chuck them on the floor. Like, oh, I didn't understand they were staying here forever. They just don't get it. It's a big adjustment. It takes time. There's a few things in coaching. I set up a few things that we can do, but it is tricky. It's an adjustment period. I can't solve the problem. I can set you up to make it a little bit easier down the road. But yeah, it's a big adjustment for a kid. I love this story. This friend of mine, we both had 2-year-old boys, very gentle little boys, and they just played really well together. And they were 2, and she brought home her new baby girl, gorgeous little baby newborn, and her 2-year-old boy, who was very gentle and sweet. We would not have seen this coming at all. Went in the nursery in the bassinet, picked up the newborn, threw her down on the floor on her head. She was fine, luckily. But yeah, he was like, oh, I don't want this thing staying. But if they're allowed to throw a doll around, how can they not? You see what I mean? Like, they just don't understand that stuff. So yeah, it's very normal. And we were just shocked he did that. Like, such a sweet little calm boy, but he was just sick of this baby taking all the attention, screaming. So it's a big, big adjustment for them. So have some compassion for that. Does that mean she's not ready? For what? I know this is good. My daughter is all ready to go to the toilet. Okay, I have a whole course on my website, bratbusters.com. It's only $29. I have 3 courses that are available on my website. And it's a potty party. I can't go into it here. It's a whole system. If you're interested in that, check it out. It's on bratbusters.com. It explains 2.5 years old is when I train my kids. But there's no set. It should be 2.5 exactly. My daughter, I probably could have trained at 2, but I just held out because I wanted to go perfect. Because I trained them over a weekend. No pull-ups, no night diapers, nothing. And my daughter had 1 accident, which was my fault, about a week later. And that was my fault. But my son had none. But, also, it's a really good way to exercise your leadership too, because it's a party and it's all positive and you're in charge of it, but it's all fun and it's a really good leadership tool, leadership process. They're 2.5. It's a really good opportunity to put yourself in the leadership role if you're not already there. It took my grandma a day to train me, and I was under 16 months old. Yeah, that can work with some kids, not with others. That's not the norm. You might have just had really good control, and that's not the norm, though. Yeah. How to explain to my 5-year-old daughter separation with her father so she does not blame me all the time? Eh, 5 years old is very hard. My kids were 9 and 14 when we separated. And yeah, I would have to assess that situation. Why is she blaming you, not the dad, if he's left? If you've left, it's whoever's left they tend to blame. When at that age, when they get older, they often blame the one who's behind. So I don't know. I'd have to assess that. That's not really a quick TikTok live answer. So if you want to work with me on that, you can hire me on bratbusters.com. I'd have to assess that situation first. Um, my son will pick 24-hour media blackout over the positive consequence. Sure. They often do that out of spite. Give me the big one. I don't care. Like that kind of attitude. Then say, sure, okay, that was your choice. But then once you've said, sure, okay, it happens. Do not say. And then they might be just bluffing just to show you how tough they are. Um, oh, she says he is good. I have to assess that situation. I don't know. I have a lot of questions I would ask, personal questions. What kind of parent you are, what kind of parent he is, what, blah, blah, blah. Do you get along? All this stuff. So yeah, I can't get into that here. How to act with a 16-month-old. I don't know, but that's still a baby in my books. I always say it's up to about 16 months. They're still sort of babies. And I still discipline babies, but this is how I do it. So let's say they're even 10 months old and they bite you or something. This is how I discipline a 10-month-old. No, that's it. If you start doing that when they're really little, they will look to you. They just start to look to you for leadership. It's just the way it is. So yeah, 16 months old, you address the naughty stuff, but it's gentle. It's very like, just no. And then they're 16 months old, say, no. And then it's consistent corrective action. So you take something away, but it's very gentle when they're little. Like they're just learning. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're crazy. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed up there. They're just forming. So you want to teach them in a real, like you want to still exercise leadership, but it's done in a way, a lot of eye contact, and then they'll often laugh at you and you don't smile back at them. You say, no. And then they'll laugh trying to get you to laugh. But yeah, if you're trying to teach them something, but be careful with that. They're just brand new, fresh human beings. Uh, yeah. This one's, well, I don't know if I can help you on here, but advice for a 6-year-old having ADHD, having outbursts in classroom, not able to calm down. I never worked with easy kids. My kids were easy. I didn't learn a lot with my own kids. I learned how to live with teenagers. That's a whole other skill. And how to navigate all that stuff. But yeah, all the kids I worked with had ADHD, ODD, WXYZ. They were alphabet kids. That's what I used to call them. And but yeah, you have to meet their needs and manage their wants. Their needs are, if they have hyperactivity, you have to learn how to feed that. You also have to teach them how to calm down. You can't just say calm down. You have to say, here's what we're going to do to calm you down. But you have to have exercised some activity first. I'm going to give you an example. So you got to get in the habit of meeting their needs and managing their wants. So if you have a really hyperactive kid, they're going to need more exercise, more running around, more of this crazy time where they can just go crazy, right? So you take them to the park and you say, okay, we'll swing twice and then run around the swing set twice. Swinging is not exercise. It's just sitting there, right? So yeah, have them exercise, get that out of the system and say, okay, now we're at the park for an hour. Now let's go home and let's do something calmer. So then you're actually teaching them how to calm down. Say, okay, let's take a few deep breaths, whatever you want to do. It's different for all kids, but let's just take two deep breaths. You do it with them. And then you say, okay, now we're going to play. Now we're going to do some drawing or whatever. So what you're doing is you're training them. It's okay to be wild, but only in containment, only when it's okay to be that way. You can't be running around a classroom, right? So you've got to learn how to contain these certain sort of trends within their mind. Sometimes they need to go crazy. So feed that, meet their needs. They need to go crazy sometimes. It's really important. I'll tell you kind of a cute story. I was working with this one kid in a classroom and they were doing a test. His eyeballs were spinning around. He was ADHD next level. ADHD. Anyway, I worked with him a lot. So I said to the teacher, can I get permission to take him out to the playground? And I don't know what grade it was, 2 or 3. Anyway, and she said, yeah, sure, because I was there all the time. So I had all the police clearance and all that. So anyway, I took him out to the playground and I said, you can swing so long as you're answering questions. So he's swinging. As he's doing so, I'm asking him questions. And he completely aced the test. He got an A. And because I was meeting his needs and managing his wants. Now, teachers can't do that. They can't go out and swing with 30 kids. But I was able to do that. But you understand what I was doing there? I was able to, you're a parent, so you have more time with your kids. I was able to meet his need, which was he could not focus. But he could focus if his brain was sort of doing something. If his body was doing something else, he was able to. So think about it that way. They do have a lot of needs, as we all do, but you got to meet their needs before you can manage their wants. But anyway. I'm also filming on YouTube these days, but the reason I'm looking this way is my audience is on TikTok. I think I've got, I don't know how many subscribers on YouTube. I'm not really on there. So I think I've got about 1,500 subscribers on YouTube, and I've got like 500,000 on TikTok. So that's why I'm looking like that, because I don't get any questions on here. But some kids, someone said, are kids menaces? No, parents are. There you go. Children are just reacting to the parenting they're getting. So there's my answer. I'd rather blame the parents than the kids. This one, you're not going to like my answer. Thoughts on eating on the sofa, teen girl and mom versus at the dinner table, regularly sofa. We always ate at the dinner table. We just did. And that was all it, because our focus was on each other. There was no screens. So that was our time to talk, catch up on the day and chat. That was what I did. So, but was my way, and it just was what we did. So, because they never had screens growing that was just something that they grew up with. So we sit at the table and we eat and we chat. Got nothing else to do. We're going to look at each other and chat. We had some of the best conversations at the dinner table. So yeah, it wasn't so much that it's about manners. It's about connection, right? If you're sitting facing a screen, where's the connection? It's what I called, there's a word for it. It is connection, because you're laughing at the same thing, but you're not it's just different. It's like people say, well, I do connect with my kids. I take them to games and I'm watching all their games. Yeah, that's not connecting. You play a game with them to connect. Children with autism, that is coaching only. It's a specialty. I only discuss autism in coaching. I can't generalize here. They all have very unique needs, and it's a lot of hit and misses. I have to throw ideas at you, and what sticks? We throw mud at the wall and see what sticks. So, yeah. If you want me to answer you, you're going to have to do it all in one go, because I can't scroll back to see, because sometimes you'll finish off a thought. I just can't look back. I get dizzy. I try to, but if it's something really intriguing, especially teenage stuff, I'll usually try and look back. But I do struggle to scroll backwards. 17 years old, think I have bipolar disorder because I raise my voice sometimes. No, she is lazy. Well, she's lazy, you've got bipolar. Isn't that kind of the standard relationship between parent and teenager? Is parents crazy, teenagers lazy? It's really common. So yeah, I didn't have that with my kids because it was a very mutually respectful relationship. But yeah, that's really common. You just don't have mutual respect going on. I'll give you a sample of how I work with parents with teenagers. Not always. It depends. It depends. If it's crisis work, we don't do this. But let's say you're just struggling to get respect. You want to get a better relationship. You don't want her calling you names like that, bipolar. Unless you have bipolar, that's different. But anyway, this is what I suggest you do. This is just a very general TikTok answer to dealing with teenagers. So let's say you want them to, you want to use that behavior board. I don't call it a behavior board with teenagers. We call it an accountability chart or a bonding board or a connection board, whatever. They don't call it a behavior board because they're too old for that. But a lot of my clients take it to work and use it with staff too. So they have a lot of fun with it because the boss is on it too, right? So anyway, you say to her, okay, here we go. We're each going to have a rule and a consequence. That's what the behavior board is. It's free on my website, bratbusters.com. We're each going to have a rule and a consequence. I want your rule to be put your dirty clothes in the hamper and nowhere else. You always keep it not personal, something easy, not something that's contentious that you've always argued over. So you say something like that. I want you to put your dirty clothes in the hamper and nowhere else. That's your rule. And then you turn to her and you say, what do you want from me? Like, what do you want my rule to be? And open up the conversation. She might say, get off my back, leave me alone. Say, well, that would be lovely, but that's probably not going to happen. So let's be reasonable here. What do you want from me? So Start the negotiation. Start it up. I negotiated everything with my kids, but they never asked for anything that they knew the answer would be, well, no, that can't happen. So they already respected me. But to get respect, this is how you do it. And you say, what do you want from me? Let's start the negotiations. So what do you want me to start doing or stop doing? I could tell you lots of stories about this with parents come to me with teenagers, and then after they finish working with me, the difference is quite outstanding. Just because the parents didn't know how to respect their teenager. Say, how can you respect someone who just treats you like crap, leaves messes everywhere, and is out all night? And I say, this is how you do it. Step one. Step one's a small one, really small. And it's more give than take. With teenagers, a lot of parents get really frustrated by this. They say, all I do is give, 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 and they give me nothing. And I say, right, that's a teenager. I said, but here, don't have any expectations of any take with a teenager. It's mostly give, very little take. So it's your interpretation of teenagers, which is off and off. You expect it to be fair? It's not fair. They're going through a lot. Their hormones are flying. They're all, forming, and it's very confusing. They're very self-absorbed, and that's very normal. Okay, it doesn't mean they can be rude to you, though. Anyway, so I always say it's like this: give, 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 take, give, 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 take. Like, you see what I mean? It's mostly give, very little take. That's your expectation anyway. And the real payback is when they're older, they have their own teenagers, and you can just sit back and watch the show. That's the revenge. Can you believe my teenager just talked back to me? Oh, really? That's a shame. And that's a slow burn, though. You have to wait a long time for that. Okay, got to get going soon. Yeah. No, you don't ask the school to use my behavior board. I've actually had clients who've taken the behavior board to school and told the teachers to use it. I would never tell a school what to do with my kids. That's their realm. This is mine. I'm in charge of home. You're in charge of school. Unless they're beating my kids up, I'm never going to say anything. My kids were sometimes treated unfairly at school. They didn't always have great teachers. None of my business. As long as they weren't being hurt. You know what I mean? Like harmed physically. But yeah, no, you never, ever, ever take that behavior board to school. Huge portion of my clients are teachers, and they will bring it to school. But I would never ask a teacher to do that, ever. I teach parenting, and you don't ask other people to parent your kids. You let them teach. This is, I could go on about this, but anyway, I did an article. I used to have a parenting column, like the Dear Abby, parenting, and it was in the newspaper. Anyway, and this one thing went all over North America. I wrote down, stop expecting schools to parent. That was the headline. Parents hated me for it. I got so many emails from schools. We put that up in our bulletin board in the staff room, not out in public. Well, the parents would have had a fit. But they put that up. And what I was saying was, let the schools do what they were meant to do. Educate your children and keep them alive. That's about it. Nowadays, they're expected to parent. They have to teach your children about hygiene, sex, manners, diet. Like, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ludicrous. What's left for the parents to do? And if the kids are turning out wrong, it's the school's fault. It's absolutely ridiculous. That's why so many teachers are getting out of it. They just can't handle it. It's not teaching anymore. It's parenting now, because the parents aren't doing it. They have to pick up the slack from the parent. They have to deal with the messes that the parents send to school, right? All that just disrespect and bad behavior that the teachers have to deal with. Years ago, that wouldn't have happened. The parents would have been called into school, manage your kids, or they're out. And nowadays, they can't do that. So they said that the schools would be empty if they had to do that. So, but yeah, stop expecting schools to parent. That's your job. Their behavior is 100% up to you, not the school. Unless sometimes if something's going on at school, because sometimes something bad can be going on, but that's rare. Parents expect too much from schools. Well, because such a huge portion of my clients are principals, teachers, school counselors, and they complain about this all the time, all the time. And the older ones say it didn't used to be like that. Parents were accountable. Now they're not. They blame everybody but themselves, which is such a shame, because you've got so much more power and control over how your children turn out than you could even imagine. When you're a leader, they just look to you. They're going to follow you when they're little. And when they're older, they make really good decisions because you've taught them right. So they don't want to disappoint you. But don't relinquish your power to everybody else, to the schools, to the coaches, to the detention centers, the police, don't relinquish your power, embrace it, take it on. That's what I teach. I teach leadership. Is it ever too late? No. I work with parents who have 18-year-olds. So long as they're still living at home, it doesn't always work out that way, but hopefully they're still living at home, but they have to be somewhat financially dependent on you for me to work with you. Any way to prepare, practice calm leadership before kids? Yeah, just understand that when they're babies, it's all about them and whatever they want. And I just circulate it around my kids. Whenever they cried, I pick them up. From the age of about 10 to 12 months, you can start doing the no, really, really gentle. Then when they're toddlers and they start hitting and all that stuff, it's consistent corrective actions, but you're always calm and you never yell. It's always very calm. You should never say anything that makes them cry unless you've just taken something away that they wanted. But you never scare them where they go, oh, you don't want to do that. And then by the time they're 3, start with my behavior board. And there's a rule and a consequence for everything. It's just teaching them how to be accountable. A lot of adults could learn this. Every time I see someone out in the street, I live downtown, every time I see someone out arguing with this poor ticket person that has to hand out parking tickets, like the worst job in the world, they're arguing with them. I was just gone for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Oh, what a job. You must love your job, just making people's days, ruining people's days. They're just abusing this poor person who's working for the government, handing out parking tickets. They always look scared. And I think I know exactly how that person was raised. No accountability. Like if I got a parking ticket, this is how I react. Oh, oops, how embarrassing. I messed up. Like I would never not be accountable for what I do. I was raised with accountability, and that's how I raise my kids. Be accountable. You want your kids to be accountable. So don't let them get away with stuff. But yeah, I see that every time I see someone arguing a parking ticket, I think you were not raised to be accountable at all. You take no accountability for what you do. It's everybody else's fault. And that is also, there's a real style out there, and it's that, I call it the pleaser style, where you're trying to validate all their feelings all the time. You know what you're raising? I've seen it now. I said this. I said, boy, that is going to be one entitled generation. And here they are, the entitled generation, the snowflakes. You didn't validate my feelings. I'm just the bus driver lady. Like they just are so entitled. That was a real trend. I saw that happening 20, 30 years ago. And I said, I know exactly what's going to happen to those people, those little kids, because you're validating everything they do. Everything is just wonderful and to be explained and to get attention. And yeah, they turn out very entitled. And that's how they turn out. So I saw that coming. I warned people about it. No one listened to me. Now they're listening. That was a long time ago. I used to do a lot of TV in that and talking about this stuff. And everyone was, yeah, but you have to validate all the feelings. And no, you don't. Okay, do you customize packages based on need? I've got so many ages and different kids. Such a good question. If you've got that would be 5 sessions. I often work with people 10, 20 sessions, because they've just got ongoing stuff they want to keep working, on. And anyway, and my goal is to, after we get past the 3rd session, depending on what's going on, I try and cut the sessions in half. So you'll get double, but just 30 minutes each, because we're just checking in. They'll say, this is what I did, this is what didn't work. But they already have the basic understanding of leadership. That's that first 3 weeks. You have to understand what I'm teaching. After that, it's like, oh, I didn't know what to do in that situation. Anyway, if you've got a whole bunch of kids, it's a family. So it's not, I have to do it all as a whole. That reminds me of a video I did recently and it was interesting because mother was telling me she was struggling with getting close to her kids. So she was spending one-on-one time with them. And I was talking to my daughter about this. I don't discuss client names. So the odd time I'll say, yeah, she was spending time with each kid individually to bond with them. And my daughter said, uh-oh. Like she knew right away, and she's not into any of this stuff at all. She doesn't like any of this stuff. But she said, uh-oh. I was surprised she picked up on that. You don't segregate and teach them things and bond with them separately. You do it all together as a whole, as a family. So yeah, I said, no, don't do that one-on-one time with your kids. You can do whatever you want once you've got respect and this is all settled. But when you're learning this stuff and learning leadership, you keep it all together. Play games with the 3 of you or the 4 of you. Play games together as a family. We do everything as a family. But yeah, it's really important to learn how to function as a family And you're going to have kids you're going to want to target more than others. And then some parents will say to me, well, do we put only the difficult kids on the chart, on the family behavior board? I'm like, are you kidding me? That one kid, that poor kid, only Johnny's on there. He's the rotten one. No, everybody has to go on there. And you've got to kind of water down what he's doing wrong and and you got to sort of build up what they're doing wrong. You got to kind of make it look even. So no, I really stay away from that individual stuff. But, I deal with teen crisis, and you can imagine if we've got one teenager who's right off the rails, that would be more one-on-one stuff with that kid. That's different. But I always try and keep it as a package all together. What's the difference between authoritative and a leadership parenting style? Okay, very good question. I just bucket it in these three different lists: the authority, the pleaser, and the leader. I'm the leader. The authority, my way or the highway, I know everything. You do what I say because I'm your parent. And the end, I'm not accountable. The pleaser is, what do you want? You just had a tantrum. How did you feel? Do you like me? Do you like me? Oh, please like me. That's the pleaser parent, okay? The leader is, hey, this is a problem. Here's the consequence. Do you understand? And then, oh, I messed up. You get to punish me too. We're all accountable. We're all accountable. All of us. And you also want to be best friends with your kids. That was something I don't talk about a lot because you're asking me about problems, but a big part of this is being best friends with your kids. You want to be buddies, and you're always connecting with your kids in their world, not in your world. You discipline in your world, but you connect with them in their world. So you meet their needs and manage their wants. Their needs are discipline. That's your world. Their wants are their world. If they want to play. I said that backwards, didn't I? No, I don't even want to go back and try and think about that, because if I try and fix it up, then I'll mess it up even more. What I mean is, when you're disciplining, it's all you. It's all in your world. But when you're playing with them, they're in charge. It's all their world. Like, one of my favorite things to do with my kids was I'd be the panty monster, and I'd put when I was doing laundry, all the underpants went on my head. The leg holes were my eye holes, and I'd chase the kids around the house. But they used to laugh and say, well, if we ever stepped a toe out of line, those underpants come off and she becomes mom. Like, best buddies 99% of the time, but if they were ever rude or anything, boy, oh boy, I was mom. So that's your number one role, is your parent first. You're the parent, the leader, number one. After that, be best friends. That's your whole goal. You just want to have fun with your kids, right? Get all that pesky discipline set, get all that pesky respect and all that stuff all sorted out when they're little, and then you can just sail right through. Okay, so that pleaser one, the authority, has really got a bad rap. If I was going to be one or the other, I'd be more likely to be the authority. The reason is that children who are raised in that pleaser mentality, trying to validate everything they do and you're absolutely perfect and wonderful no matter what you do, it actually belittles them and lowers their self-esteem. The authority, they still have a chance of having some self-esteem and some sense of self, because they have more pride in themselves because they're better behaved. The children raised by pleasers tend to not give a crap what anyone else thinks or anything. They're all for them, just about them. So if I was to err on the side, it would be more the authority than the pleaser, for sure. The pleaser, this is really controversial. I have seen, I'm going to be very gentle how I say this. I'm going to be careful how I say this, because I get kids watching. The depressed teenager, more often than not, is a result of the pleaser parent. They have no pride, no sense of self. They disrespect their parents. They disrespect themselves. They don't know who they are. The teenager raised by the authority, so the pleasing the authority, raised by the authority, so they do have a lot of discipline. It's not great either. Neither one of these are great. But that one, they generally have more pride in who they are and their actions, who they become. That's what I've seen, because I've specialized in teen crisis work. So that's what I've seen for sure over the years, is the pleaser parent, which is so trendy right now. I get it, validating all their little thoughts and feelings. That leads down a path that you don't want. Often, not all the time, of course, but more often than not, I've seen that go that way than the other. So the leader is the friend, and they can tell you everything. But if they're disrespectful, you deal with it. If they do something wrong, there's a consequence. They have to be accountable, and therefore they have higher self-esteem, more pride, more confidence. A child who disrespects their parents has very low self-esteem. I've never once ever seen a disrespectful child have high self-esteem, ever. Although on the flip side, the child raised by the authority often has high self-esteem because they're proud of the way that they treat their parents and other people, but they might inside have other turmoils going on. But anyway, and they're often the ones, both of them rebel in the teenage years, build resentment. My son was 15 and he said to me, "You've been a really difficult mom." And I was shocked. I thought it was great. I was shocked. And I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "I have nothing to rebel against. You're too reasonable and easy to talk to." Could have blown me over with a feather, but I couldn't react. I just said, "Well, why is that?" I said, and he says, "Well, because I've got nothing to rebel against. I tell you everything." And so I said, "Fine, go clean your room." And he never did. Rebellion taken care of. So, but he pretty much said it all. He had nothing to rebel against because I was too reasonable and easy to talk to. There you go. Don't you want that? But he needed to rebel, obviously. So he kept a really disgusting room. And I only had two rules: no food or dirty clothes in his bedroom. But oh my God, it was scary. And I'm really fussy, but I let it go. That's how he rebelled. Anyway, I have to go. If you want to go on my website, it's bratbusters.com. You can hire me, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. And think about what I was just going on about the authority and the pleaser. And in those teen years, what to look out for. Because it makes sense to me that if they never have any direction or any accountability, they don't know who they are. And they tend to think very poorly of themselves when they're teenagers. That's when depression kicks in and all sorts of mental health issues come up. So I've seen that over the years many, many, many times. So think about that. Anyway, I got to go. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye now.